That was a great introduction. Yes. And this is a great, great college with a great history. And I'm glad that you make that history real, so thank you very much. I'm excited that everybody is here, and I'm trying to make sure I get this microphone right, but I want to tell you, I'm going to speak for a little while. They're going to keep me here. I think they're going to make me stay here. I'm excited to talk for a few minutes, for about 10, 15 minutes. I want to bring up our panel so we can have a conversation about some of the issues that are going on in the community. And then I'm excited to take some questions from everybody that's here. But I wanted to start out having a few minutes to let you all know a little bit of my purpose. And I am a young man who was born to two extraordinary parents. My mom was born in Detroit, Michigan. And my dad was born not too far from South Carolina, right across the border near Greenville. He was born in Hendersonville, North Carolina. And my daddy is a guy that taught me some of my best lessons. I was born to two great people. And one of the things my dad used to always say, son, I was born to a single mom, I was born poor. But the older that my father got, the more difficult his childhood got. So eventually he'd be like, boy, don't tell people I was born poor. Tell them the truth, I was just born P.O. I couldn't afford those two letters. But my parents raised my brother and I to understand and respect the truth of where we came from and the country that we live in. And so much of who I am, and I believe who you are, because we're all Americans in this room, really the purpose that's driving me forward is a result of who I am. You see, right now, I believe a lot of Americans are beginning to lose faith in our ability to solve our own problems. I believe a lot of Americans are feeling left out or left behind, understandably so. A lot of Americans are beginning to believe that the forces tearing our country apart are stronger than the forces that are holding us together. Well, I'm running for president because I don't believe that. I believe that our sense of common purpose, our sense of connection, our power, and our unity is our best hope. In fact, I believe that a lot of the problems that frustrate us, that we have more power to solve them when we recognize that we have a common destiny. We recognize that we need each other. And I believe that across this country right now, people are experiencing common pain, but we've lost that sense of common purpose. And we need to reignite that. What do I mean by that common pain? Well, you all know. There are millions of Americans, black and white, Republican, Democrat, who are frustrated because that Social Security check they get does not go far enough to give them security. We know there's a lot of common pain in this country because folks are having difficulty accessing health care. We know that there are people who put aside life-saving drugs because they can't afford them. We know that there's a common pain in this country of people working a full-time job but not being able to make ends meet, finding themselves with more month at the end of their money than money at the end of their month. There is a lot of common pain. I know we're going to talk about it, but the way we've addressed that in the past is that sense of common purpose. Is knowing that we're all in this together. Now, my parents taught me this not only throughout our history, that American history is a perpetual testimony to the achievement of the impossible. They taught me that we have achieved great things when we recognize that we had to come together across those lines that divide us. And the story of my life, which is an individual story, but I know it's one that we all can relate to, is a testimony to that truth of who we are. When I was a young man growing up in Harrington Park, New Jersey, my parents used to look at me and say, never forget the struggles and the sacrifices it took to get you to where you are. And in fact, my parents, my dad left North Carolina. He came down from the mountains, went to college at North Carolina Central University, moved to Washington, D.C., and had the luck and the good fortune to meet my mom. And I'll tell you, my mom had the grace and mercy to marry my dad. And the two of them together started getting opportunities that black families often didn't have. Because a lot of people came together to work to get them opportunities to expand doors. My dad was the first black salesman hired by a company called IBM. And then they got a promotion up to New Jersey. When they got to New Jersey, looked for places in great public schools. A lot of times they'd show up to look at a house, the real estate agent would see them and tell them, oh, well, this house is sold. Oh, this house has been pulled off the market. Really, they were doing that because of the color of their skin. And what did my parents find? What did they discover at that moment when a lot of the pain and the hurt and the bigotry of our country was rearing its ugly head in their lives again? Well, what they found was a room that looked a little bit like this one. A room full of black folks and white folks who joined together and said, this is not our country. we are going to join together and change this reality. And what happened was that group of folks, black folks and white folks, worked together with a group of lawyers, and they set up a sting operation for my parents. So now when they went home shopping in certain neighborhoods, and they were told the house was sold, a white couple would come right behind them and find out that the house was still for sale. They were posing as my parents. And they would look around and say, oh, I love this house, and they'd be, oh, no, you can buy it. And the house that I would grow up in, my parents were told it was sold. They left, and the white couple came and found out it was still for sale. And they put a bid on the house. The white couple, when they found out it was still for sale, they put a bid on the house. The bid was accepted, the papers were drawn up. And on the day of the closing, the white couple didn't show up. My father did, his lawyer, volunteer lawyer. And I always imagined that lawyer rehearsed all night, you know, getting ready to give a big speech, civil rights speech. You know, you're in violation of New Jersey law, American values. But he marched up to that real estate agent and really didn't get a chance to speak that much, because as soon as the real estate agent realized he had been caught, he didn't capitulate, he didn't get up. He gets up and punches my dad's lawyer in the face. And he sticks a dog on my dad. Now let me tell you, as I was growing up, every time my dad would tell that story, the dog would get bigger. Eventually I'd be sitting there, you know, eating my Cheerios. I was an 18-year-old high school All-American football player on my way to Stanford to play, and I didn't get into Stanford because we were 4.0, 1,600, 4.0 yards per carry, 1,600 receiving yards. And my dad would see his son there eating his Cheerios in this nice house, and he'd be like, boy, don't you walk around this house like you hit a triple. You were born on third base, young man. A whole lot of people had to fight and sacrifice and struggle to get you to where you are. You owe a debt that you cannot pay back, but you gotta pay it through. Now let me tell you, that is all of us in America. Every right that we take for granted. We were a nation that went from sweatshops and child labor to workers' rights in public schools, because we did that together. We are a nation that went from slavery to abolition. We tore down Jim Crow, and we did that together. You look at the advances we've made in this nation. I love ideals of rugged individualism and self-reliance. We all know that, those streams in our country, but self-reliance didn't get us to the moon. We did that together. Self-reliance didn't build the best infrastructure project in all of American history. We did that together, the Underground Railroad. We are a nation that is best when we don't let folks pit us against each other, and I worry now that we have a politics that's doing just that. Where politics is about pitting us against each other, toxic trolling and trash talking, and we cannot have that anymore. And so I'm running for president definitely to win an office, but this is much more than about an election. For me, the spirit of America is in the balance. The soul of our country is in the balance. Who are we going to be? Are we going to be more divided? Are we going to be more hateful? Are we going to be more hurting? Or are we going to join together to do something about that? And so for me in this election, I tell you right now, you cannot campaign wrong and think you're going to govern right. Yes. This election has to be about us calling to a more courageous empathy, calling towards a revival of civic grace in our country. Just because someone votes different than you, or prays different, or looks different, or is in a different area. Why did I start my campaign in South Carolina, in our rural areas? But why? Because I'm tired of folk coming through communities and often ignoring them. Yes. I know that because I started out running to places other people told me not to go to. I went to an inner city community right out of law school, to a place people told me, oh, it's too dangerous, don't even go. Well, I moved in. I joined with incredible local leaders to take on slumlords. We beat them together. I became mayor of the city of Newark. It was a city people were disrespected, disregarded. They would tell jokes about us on late night talk shows. And we banded together in our city, across the lines that divide us, and said we were going to turn this around. And in less than a decade, we changed our city from losing population, losing investment, to now going through its biggest economic development period since the 1960s, growing in population, and our schools are improving. We're the #1 city in America now for beat the odds schools, high poverty, high performance. I believe American history is a perpetual testimony to the achievement of the impossible, if we do those things together. And so let me just end with this. It's the second half of the story I told. You know, I went back when I became a United States Senator, going to another place that people told me you couldn't get things done. And I was proud, working across the aisle with people to get comprehensive criminal justice reform bill done, the First Step Act. Proud that we passed legislation, me and another senator from this state named Tim Scott wrote legislation to get new investment in low-income areas, rural areas, inner cities. But during a senator, I decided to write a book about the theme that's important to me. The book's called United. I'm really one of those people that believes we need to put the united back in these states. We need to put the indivisible back in this one nation under God. And I have to go back. I'm writing about some of the experiences in my life. If you have a daddy like mine, you got to go back and fact check stuff. So I want to know how, was it a pack of wolves or not? So I go to find the head of that group of black folks and white folks who helped my family. They were the Fair Housing Council. I go back to find the head of it from the 1960s. She was easy to find because she's still head of the Fair Housing Council today. She is 92 years old. Her name is Ms. Lee Porter. And now she doesn't represent black families trying to find housing. She represents other families facing discrimination, same-sex couples, Muslim families, Americans with disabilities. And why does she do that? Because she believes that justice has no color. If you demean the dignity of one, you demean the dignity of us all. And she's going to stand up for housing rights. And I thanked her and heard more of the story and asked her, what about that lawyer that led the call for attorneys? And she said, here's his name. His name is Arthur Lessman. I went to find him, and I said to him, I'm Cory Booker. I know who you are. I said, you know what you did for mine? I know what I did for your family. He was 84 years old, now a retired judge. But back in the 60s, he was just a young man who started a business. He was busy. He was tired. It was hard starting a business in America then as it is now. And he was trying to raise a family. And so after him telling me all of that, confirming the whole story, it was not a pack of wolves, it was just a dog. I had to ask him a question. I said, why? Why would you help black families move into your neighborhood? I want to know why. And he said to me, I remember the moment I made the decision. And I said, the moment I go, tell me about it. He goes, well, Cory, I was sitting home on my couch. I was tired, watching TV. And you all remember the days when we used to have 3 TV stations? Some of you all old enough to remember that, at 11 o'clock, the TV would go out, right? They'd play the national anthem, and then it'd just be buzz. I think that's why we had a higher birth rate back then. He's watching a TV movie. I looked it up. I know what movie he was watching. It's called Judgment at Nuremberg. It's about the aftermath of the Holocaust. And some of us, we sit there and watch TV and get upset. I call it the state of sedentary agitation. Sometimes I'm sitting there watching Rachel. I'm getting all upset about what's going on. But some people don't get upset. They get up and do things. This man was watching TV, and they broke away from the movie for breaking news. Now we have breaking news for just about everything. Every day you turn on something. Melania has a jacket. Breaking news. But back then it was a rare thing. And they broke away from this movie to show a bridge in Alabama. 1965, and he's watching these marchers who start marching from Selma, and we're trying to go to Montgomery to protest voting rights. And he says he sees these marchers on this bridge, and they're stopped by these Alabama state troopers, and they're about to kneel and pray because they know they can't go forward. So the plan was to kneel and pray and turn around. And how do I know they're going to kneel and pray? Because I talked to the man leading that march. He's now my colleague. His name is John Lewis. And Congressman Lewis tells me that they were going to kneel and pray, and then suddenly they get gassed. They shoot tear gas at them, and then these state troopers run into the marchers with billy clubs, just savagely beating them. John Lewis, this regal, humble man, says, Cory, I shed a little bit of blood on that bridge. I'm like, Congressman, no. Your head was cracked open. You bled profusely. You were knocked unconscious. And see, here you have this man in New Jersey sitting on a couch watching 1,000 miles away in Alabama. But he doesn't sit on that couch. He can't afford even a plane ticket. He's just starting his business, but he decides to do something. He doesn't allow his inability to do everything to undermine his determination to do something. He said, I may just be one man, but I'm going to do the best I can with what I have where I am. And he gets up and he makes phone calls and trying to find anybody that might need a little bit of legal help. He finds this woman named Miss Lee Porter who's like, thank you, Jesus, hallelujah, yes, I need some help. He goes to work helping her. 4 years later, he says he gets his case file, and he looks at the names on the top of the file. These people having trouble moving into the community, and the names on the file are Cory, Carolyn, Booker, my parents. And he helps us move in. Think about this for a second. This man watching TV, some marchers on a bridge who aren't even successful that day, but just by standing up for what is right, they release a force into the universe. I call that force patriotism. But what is patriotism? It is love of country, and you cannot love your country unless you love your fellow countrymen and women. Yeah. And I'm going to tell you something right now. Love is not a weak force. Love is hard. Love is difficult. Love says, I see you. Whether you live in an inner city or a rural area, I see you. And I know your destiny and my destiny are interwoven. I know that I need you. I know that if your children don't have clean water, if your children don't have good schools, if your children don't have a hospital to go to when they're sick, then my children suffer too.
That's right.
Because we have one American destiny. We are one nation. Just by standing up on one day to fight for what's right, they released that energy into the universe. It instantaneously left 1,000 miles and changed one man's heart on a couch in New Jersey, who then gets up and changes the destiny of a generation not yet born. I would not be here today if it wasn't for that chain reaction of patriotic love. Yes. We would not be here today if it wasn't for countless chain reactions of countless Americans, yes, ordinary folk who did extraordinary things for the cause of our country. Yes. And right now in America, we are back in one of those moments where people are hurting, people are suffering.
Yes.
We have jurisdiction in this country where it's easier for children to find unleaded gasoline than unleaded water. Yes. People are hurting in this country right now. Yes. We have a criminal justice system that treats you better if you're rich and guilty than poor and innocent. We are hurting right now in this country. The way to solve this problem is not tearing each other down, it's building each other up. And I believe, like our ancestors before us, if we stand together and work together and fight together, in this moment, if we join together, we can get rid of the politics of tearing down and pitting us against and reclaim the glory of this country where we ultimately rise together. Thank you very much.